Welcome to our session Play, Progress, Learn Strategies to Gamify Your Classroom. My name is Chad Collins, and I, along with teachers Michelle Gross and Sarah Parnell, worked together last year to build a new program for classes of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students where we teach at Spencer County Middle School. I want to take this opportunity to share strategies we learned over the last year, some apps and tools that make gamifying your class easier, and some ideas we're going to be trying out for the year ahead. I need to start by shouting out some amazing people and resources that helped kind of jumpstart our planning and can probably do the same for you. If you've not taken the free learning course with the Modern Classrooms Project, I highly recommend it for pretty much any educator. Its framework of blended instruction, self-paced learning, and student demonstration of mastery works perfectly in tune with gamification. You'll see it intertwined frequently with what we're doing here. We also love being a part of OVEC's Deeper Learning Teacher Navigators group and being inspired by what other teachers in the region were doing. And if you've not visited Adam Watson's resources with KY Ed RPG, they are a must visit to see some extremely cool examples of game-based learning happening in Kentucky and beyond. It doesn't matter if you're 1 or 100, people love playing games. Whether it's video games, tabletop gaming, or running around the playground at school, humans like the concept of play. Now, there's a lot of routes to discuss why gamifying your class makes sense, why it's something you might want to do. But at the base of it, it's that there are a lot of kids that we know simply don't enjoy school. I want to change that. I, as a teacher, don't want to stand up doing the same thing year to year. I don't want education to be monotonous. I want teaching to be fun for my students and for me. Incorporating play into a class doesn't negate learning. It enhances it. Incorporating play into a class doesn't get in the way of rigorous learning. It challenges kids. Sometimes games are difficult. You lose, get a game over, have to start again. And sometimes that's part of the fun. What if we can bring that same mindset to learning? It's not just about the difference between an 80 and 100% on a paper. It's me as a student being able to recognize that I've mastered a skill and I can now show that off. So how do we do this? I think we do it the same way games have for ages. And I'll use video games for this example. Whether it is very simple or very complex, games today tend to start with a story. That story provides a framework for the gameplay that'll happen, and it helps the player feel more involved. Here's our story trailer for this upcoming school year.
It was a normal day when the world suddenly became dark. A glowing portal stood before you, pulling you in. Tumbling through space and time, you found yourself back on solid ground in unfamiliar territory. You and your peers were shocked to find that you'd been pulled into another world. Now, you'll need to band together and grow stronger to uncover the mystery of why you're here. You can only do that in the halls of the Academy, a school for heroes that helps you translate the knowledge you've learned into power. Choose your class, level up your skills, train in battle, defeat the monsters that plague this world, and challenge yourself daily. As a student at the Academy, you'll have the tools to uncover the mysteries of this world. Good luck, heroes. Let your adventure begin.
Canva is a breeze to use to do this. Basically, just go to the Elements button, type in what you need, like Castle Video. It'll give you some resources that you can just drag or drop into the timeline and organize. And with some sound, you've got a trailer just like that. Play around with it and you'll find it's crazy easy to use. You may have noticed a map for the Academy pop up in the trailer video. That was pulled from a website called Incarnate with INK at the beginning. It allows users to create fantasy-style maps. People post these, and some users are nice enough to allow you to clone and edit copies for your own use, which is what I did. I added buildings and other elements and found it really easy to do so, popped names in there, and we had a neat map. So let's pause for a minute. What story could you tell in your class? Maybe you want a science fiction adventure with your students going to space and exploring. Maybe you want to just use an existing property. Your students really love Shrek, despite it being 20 years old. So you want to use it as a basis for your adventure. It doesn't matter. Just take a minute to think. What story would you tell? At this point, many games will have you create or choose a character. There's various dimensions to this. It allows you some choice for the adventure ahead. It allows for role playing or RPG elements for the game. It asks you, as the player for this story, what kind of person would you be? This character allows players to get invested. There are ongoing games people have played as the same character for longer than many of my students have been alive. They have sometimes literal decades of history with that character, skills, items, and achievements they've earned over a long period of time. Being a character in the story of your classroom gives yet another avenue students might get invested. The 6th, 7th, and 8th grade classes we designed this for are pretty unique. The Academy 5th period class evolved from what used to be our academic team class, which was specifically geared to help students prep for academic competitions. That element still remains, but we've instead crafted this class to be more focused on being a class that allows students accelerated study in the content area of their choice. For example, if a kid really loves math, if they take this class, they'll have a whole extra math class all year long. Their regular math teacher is already providing opportunities for accelerated study, but we've worked as a team to provide opportunities for kids that really want to push themselves. This in turn allows us an easy structure for our characterization. Our math students are members of the magician class. Arts and humanities students are bards. Social studies students are knights. Language arts students are beastmasters. And science students are rangers. This year we're adding a character sheet reflecting students' learning journey. I can add items they earned to the sheet, I can show experience gained, a little bit more on that later, and catalog achievements. Let's go ahead and pause again. I want you to pretend that you're in this class, and I want you to pick a character of your own. Which one of these character classes will you be? Are you going to be a bard? Are you going to be a knight, beastmaster, ranger, or magician? Take a second and decide. Some of our students will be with us from 6th through 8th grade, so we wanted to have a few ways to track progression outside of just standard Infinite Campus gradebook stuff. This class is structured with the Modern Classrooms project framework in mind. Learning is mastery-based, meaning every assignment we have can be repeated as many times as necessary until a student achieves whatever the mastery criteria is. The class is self-paced, and the students can choose what assignment they want to work on most days, and in whatever order they want, and teacher-created videos kind of help us set that up. As a quick example, let's say that students wanted to work on training session 1, which is going to be a teacher-created video over content related to their subject area. For this example, students just need to take notes on the topic. They'll turn those notes into the teacher, so the teacher can then check that the student adequately covered the material. Sometimes later we'll have specific questions and things to check student understanding too, but this is just a basic example. Teachers that use the Modern Classrooms project framework frequently have something called a progress tracker where they'll track student progress outside of just the standard gradebook. This is the example we use for our class, and we've kind of themed it to go along with our gamified classroom. For this, I can enter a student name, I can tell what class or subject they are studying, and whenever they finish something, like for example those notes, I can just check it off on my list. That'll accumulate a small amount of points or experience points to go with our theming, with a goal that over the course of a quarter, students will earn 100 points and then level up, which you'll see here. There's a whole lot of benefits to a progress tracking system like this. I'll be quick. Students like that they can log in and see where they're at any time. Parents and guardians like the same thing. It kind of takes the mystery out of grades to a certain extent, in that parents can just look and be like, okay, you don't have quest number 1 checked off. You need to finish that this week. Students can do the same thing. It allows them to kind of put a check on themselves and where they need to be. It also allows for that long-term progression. At the end of a quarter, I can go and level up students. I can go and get rid of the checkboxes, and we can start fresh with a brand new quarter. It also makes it infinitely easier for us as teachers to track where students are at. If a student has skipped around on the assignments, which is fine in this self-paced, student-driven class, that's okay because they're going to give me a sheet of paper that says it is training session 8, it's got the notes on it, and when I check that for mastery, I can just check it off. It's easy to link that spreadsheet to a Google slideshow for the character sheet as well, so I can have sort of a student stat bar down here at the bottom that'll update every week or so that the students can track and see where they're at from that way as well. What if instead of just the standard Google Classroom or other LMS, You could have students actually explore a world that you've designed, and one where maybe even your students have contributed towards that design, giving them a little bit of stake in it. Last year, we used a Google site hosting all of our activities for the Academy class. We organized it by quarters. Students could access it, find links to their projects and other activities, and access things like their progress trackers. With their activities, they could find little things like snippets of lore or descriptions of monsters that tied in with the gamified theming, and students really liked this organization. But this year, we wanted to take it a step further. We'll still have the host site, but students will access their activities from an interactive world map we've connected with the website Genially. If you've not used Genially before, think of it as sort of just an interactive slideshow that you put together. Essentially, what we're building here is a very, very involved choice board. We have our students having access to a lot of activities, but they can do so sort of in a video game-like interface. So this is our world map for the Academy built in Genially. There's a few neat things you can do with it. I can toggle background music to play whenever students are in it. Students with this are essentially going to wherever they need to for finding their activities or projects that they're working on. So for example, my arts and humanities students are going to go to the Bard's College most days. They're going to go to whatever section they need to for activities. Let's say they need to complete a quest, which is the titling we use for sort of our longer term projects that students can work on. They can access their quest by going here. It's going to tell them how much XP or points they'll earn by completing this quest. It's going to give them the title, a description of what they're going to do for the project, how they can achieve mastery on the project, what they can do if they don't achieve mastery on the project, which is usually just going back in and doing some part of it that they left out, and other details like that. They can find neat little things like clicking on characters and finding dialogue and other descriptions from them if they want to. They can exit out, and if they want to explore other sections of the Academy and see what other students are working on, they can do so too. It's also nice because if a student does manage to finish all of their activities for a quarter, they could go into another one of the schools and work on something there if they wanted to as well. Genially is pretty easy to get into quickly because it is very familiar to people who have made a Google slideshow before. You're essentially just adding images, backgrounds, and then linking slides to each other, which many people use in the past for choose your own adventure style activities and things for that. There are a whole lot of resources though that make it interactive or that you can add special things to, like audio. There's neat things like adding dice to a page, which you can change. You can add little things like coins, randomized images. Here's an extremely extra example of some gamified type stuff you could add with a Genially page. I was playing around with it, and typically when you look at the world map, you won't see this little covered wagon. But if students leave the page open for a few minutes without any activity on it, this little wagon will appear. If students click it, it can bring them to a page with this mysterious wagon, which doesn't seem to have anything on the page. But if you mouse over a specific section under this wheel, you'll find a mysterious note with a number on it. You can do stuff like that too. For example, I could have another page which students can only access if they type that code in. Maybe the first student who finds that could bring me something and I give them some type of special reward. There's all kinds of little things that you could do with Genially like that to kind of build up your world. Maybe I have a character that I pop in there only on certain days of the week that students can access. Learning should be fun, but it also needs to challenge students. We tried a few things last year that students thoroughly enjoyed, and I want to demonstrate just a little bit of that. One of the things the students loved the most was competing in our weekly tournaments. This year, you'll be able to access some preparation material for those tournaments by going to the arena. Within the arena, students can click these training dummies, and they can see a variety of topics that they might get quizzed on that week. Now, these can come from all subject areas because keep in mind, we're preparing students for everything at some level. They just have one subject area they specialize in because they're also preparing for academic team competitions. They can go to these links and they'll actually open up a page to a Blooket, sometimes a Quizizz that they can prepare with. If you've not tried out the website Blooket, it is a extremely fun kind of game-based website where students can study material while playing a game at the same time that sort of makes that material really engaging. The website itself has a lot of long-term progression type stuff built in, like characters you can earn, things like that. But essentially, it'll ask students questions and prepare them a little bit for the tournament ahead. Quizizz is a website we frequently use for these weekly tournaments to challenge students. If you've not used this website in a while, it has become amazing. There's already a ton of pre-built material between lessons, quizzes, and things like that, but you can create things very, very quickly with your own resources or just with nothing thanks to the AI stuff that they've built in. For example, let's say that I want to build a quiz on Kentucky facts. All I need to do is put Kentucky facts, the grade level that I want it. Depth of knowledge can be added there too. I can click continue, and typically it'll take just a little bit of time. You can add other dimensions to it, but it'll create a quiz just like that. Now, with literally everything involving AI, you should deeply check this quiz before you give it to students. Make sure that the answers are all appropriate and that they actually make sense and that the answers are correct themselves. It'll let you go in and add other dimensions to the test as well. You can even switch up from multiple choice questions if you want to. It'll allow you to do that if you have certain features, and it'll make them into different types beyond just multiple choice to prepare students also. I can create basically any quiz like this quickly, publish it, and use it for our tournament if I want to. Even more useful to me as an academic team coach, I can take many of the old tests that were used for competitions and actually upload them into Quizizz to create a test using those questions. It usually won't do this perfectly. You'll need to go through and edit it a little bit, but I can take these huge tests that took me literally 2 or 3 hours to type in and create a test with, and it'll make those instantly. I can then challenge my students with those tests in a way that's a little bit more interactive and fun, or we can use those tests for our tournament that we're having. Let's say you're in the top 3 in our weekly tournament we have for your grade level. If you happen to be one of those top 3 people, you get the opportunity to roll for prizes. We've gamified that a little bit by giving students some D20 that they can use and roll to decide what they get. So for example, if you look at our chart 1 through 6, they're going to have access to the sticker box. 7 through 13, they get a piece of candy. And 14 through 19, they're going to get something from our treasure card vault.
Hey, 10, I got it. Honey.
Those cards are...
Oh, wait, you just... Oh, I was trying to twist it.
If they're...
I was trying to twist it. Wait, I got 16. Yeah, I got 16. Wow.
Small prizes cost money. Even stickers and candy can get expensive very quick. So one of the prizes that we implemented are these little treasure cards. We designed these in Canva, and I'll share some links so that you can look at some more of those. But essentially, these are just little things that allow students to have certain actions in the class. So for example, if they get this card, they can use it to roll again for several activities. This one adds a little bit to roles that they do for various activities in the class. This one allows them to name and come up with some monsters for our class, like monster hunt activities that we have. This one allows them to come up, if they were in 4th place, to be one of those top 3 people to roll. These little cards are especially fun for students because I put them into little blind bags where students get 3 at a time. It's nice to have a prize that is free for me as a teacher as long as I can find a copier to print them out. And students really enjoy them. So we just talked about our sparring session tournament that happens every Wednesday, where students are going to come together and challenge each other in a game on Quizizz, Blooket, or Gimkit to check their learning. Using the Modern Classroom's framework, students have some self-paced options during the other days of the week. They can work on training sessions, monster hunts, or quests. Training sessions are those teacher-created video notes assignments that we talked about a little bit earlier. These use apps like Screencastify, ScreenPal, or OBS for us to record videos so that students can follow along with content. If we find particularly good ones made by other people, we'll use those too, because it takes some time to make videos. Students will typically take self-paced notes during these and turn them in for a check from teachers. Monster hunts are the next activity that students might participate in. These utilize something called the mastery mode in Quizizz. This allows students to take a test or quiz until they achieve a certain score. We set a mastery score of 90%. These are repeatable, and these are going to check a lot of the content that students learn in training sessions and their sparring session tournament. Quests are the final one that I want to talk a little bit more deeply about. These are longer term projects, and they're student driven. In these, we give students significant student choice in creation. Give them something like create a video, make a poster board, design a model. Usually they'll have some branching paths as to how they can create it or what they can create it about. This allows for some deeper learning. Giving students some choice and agency in what they could do for these quests or projects led to some truly awesome results. Students who loved creating things by hand came up with some amazing hand-drawn art to tie into some projects. It's easy to make these projects or quests thematically tied to your game or your world. We had our Ranger Science students create an element-based card game. We had them also come up with constellations they might see in the night sky of the academy that are different from the real-world ones, which they compared them to. Coming up with project ideas can sometimes be tough. You've probably been referred to ChatGPT or other AI services to come up with ideas for projects. I'm going to take it a step further and ask it to tie in with our game thematically. I asked, I need some ideas for art projects for my middle school students. Please give me a list of 10 of these. Also see if you can tie them in thematically. My students are bards in a class-wide game we are playing. Any way you can tie these projects, names of projects, and theme together with that would be great. We'll go ahead and click that and see what response it gives. Of course, as normal, it'll take a second, but it'll typically come up with some decent ideas. It'll tie those in with your thing thematically, and you can use those and develop them into actual good projects or quests for your students to go on. In the current environment of constant AI hype, I would ask you to take a step back and go to students for ideas on projects too. Give them an example of some of the things you would like to learn this year and see what they come up with. Some of their ideas end up being incredible. There's resources in your school that can help too. Our STLP team is awesome, and we've turned to them for some ideas, including Kentucky's STLP Creative Project Guidelines. Our students are going to create things within this class that they can then submit for STLP, such as the book cover creative project, which one of our students did last year and made this awesome hand-drawn art. My goal is to have constant creative opportunities for students. For some students, designing, drawing, and crafting ideas is gameplay. Anytime you see AI-generated images used on any of the pages, I'm considering that a placeholder, something that students can design better and replace in the future. Students are going to sketch monsters for our Monster Hunt activity posters for the year ahead is just one example of this. Right now, AI-generated images use other people's creations without any type of compensation. I'm okay using these as flavor or examples that will lead to humans learning, but I am always going to emphasize student creations first. Canva already has a ridiculously huge library of stock graphics, photos, videos, and audio for pretty much anything you could want to design. If you do need to generate something, Canva feels like the best current choice since teachers don't have to pay anything for premium access. Ideas we'll be trying out involve incorporating more activities that involve direct student gameplay. Inspired by several other teachers I've seen do similar things in Kentucky, we want to try tabletop RPG-style mini-adventures for students to go on. I tested this a few times last year with students to great success. They absolutely loved it and kept asking me to do it again, but I really want to expand it with the hope that every week I can take a party of one student from each class or subject area on a quick 15 to 30 minute adventure. I've designed some of the item cards that students can earn in the class to directly impact these adventures and be things that they can use with them. Students will do things like roll dice to use character abilities, fight monsters in hopes of earning treasure. I have a pretty basic system set up where students must answer content-related questions in order to get a chance to roll dice and attack or perform other actions. What we'll end with is, how do you want to gamify your classroom? What things from this discussion could you pull to use? It could be as simple as trying out Blooket the next time you want to review content with students. They'll love it, I promise. Don't feel like you need to do everything we discussed here at once. It's impossible. Iterate. Try different things with students. Add things step by step. Test things out like with one lesson. See what your students enjoy. A few resources if you want to continue the conversation. Please contact me online in any way. I would also advise checking out the Modern Classrooms project. If you're at Momentum, I know they have sessions going on today, which would be excellent to check out. I did a podcast episode with them earlier in the year where I talked about gamification. You can also check out our YouTube where we have a few examples of videos that we use with students and other resources for it. And I would highly recommend checking out what some of the amazing teachers in Kentucky are doing in this space by checking out KY Ed RPG online and seeing some of their resources there.